Hello, I hope you guys all had a wonderful week since last week. This is our last time meeting through Teams for the semester. What I've been seeing has been really, really good to see. I'm very happy with how things have been turning out. People have been resubmitting stuff, responding directly to the comments I've made. And I see a lot of people have also been doing the SRI reports, which is great. The SRIs will give you 2% extra credit, which means almost a full half letter grade. So about a half letter grade almost. And it can really help if you're right on the edge. What I was hoping to do today is talk first a bit about how to get the grade, get your grade points up so you can get a better grade. That's one thing. And then I also wanted to talk about the final week, final due dates, all that kind of stuff. And then after all that, I wanted to share some of the latest things that have been submitted by people, some of the critiques, as well as some of the PowerPoints. Now, what I am going to do after this meeting tonight is I'm going to send everybody an email with links to the playlist that has our class, all the presentations that people have given, the self-critiques, the peer critiques, as well as the PowerPoint presentations. And then you'll have access to them all, you can see them. And I think what we talked about is I'd rather do that than have you guys put them on a discussion board, because that's just one extra thing for you to deal with. And I don't really think you need to do that. As I said, I am really happy with how people respond to the comments and redo stuff when they want more points. And that opens up to the first topic that I wanted to talk about is how can you get a better grade? One is you can go to the SRI thing that is in the final module. The module is labeled, let's see if I can find that here really quick. The final module is labeled final, oddly enough. And in that, you'll see just a little description of the final, and then student SRI. Let me share it really quick. I say really quick because I'm older than 22. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes for me to find what it is that I'm looking for. All right, here we go. You can see this is the last module, and the module is labeled final. And their first element of the module is this page that just talks about what you're doing. And then scrolling down, the student SRI, this tells you how to get to it, and it tells you that you get 2% extra credit points for doing the student SRI. I asked people to consider a couple questions when they take that, not to tell me what the questions are, but just keep that in your mind as you fill out the SRI report. And like I said, it's an incentive for a 2% increase in your final grade. The grade is going to be yes, you did it, or no, you didn't. And that's all. And when I see that you did, I'm going to go through and add 2% to your grade. This has been enough for a lot of people who have B minuses and A minuses to get B or A, or for B minus to go to an A minus, B plus to go to an A minus, that kind of a thing. And so it does help a bit. So there's no points, but it will do a 2% increase in your final grade. 2% increase in your final grade. And then I want to show you something else too in just a little bit. And we'll go back to this. This is your final assignment. And notice it's due December 15, but it hasn't been published yet. That's because I will publish it on Monday morning, the week of finals. And we will talk about that in just a little bit. Oh, hey, Katie. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Is Emily, you are probably at work, is what I'm guessing again, but you can overhear.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you can talk to us on your smoke breaks or whatever. I don't know if people still do that. I just realized talking to you guys, I scratched the side of my nose like that, but with the screen being so tiny, it looks like I shoved my thumb up my nose. And I remember a memory from visiting China a while ago. One of my assignments was to go and talk to some factories in China that were working on stained glass for the LDS Church. And my job was to train them so that their work looked at the same standard as work that the LDS Church was getting in the United States. And waiting for my flight home, I was sitting in the airport waiting area, and this young lady was cuddling with her boyfriend. She was sitting on his lap. They were being all cute. You know how couples like that are. It's kind of nauseating, but a little fun to see. And then she stuck her thumbnail up her nose, dug around quite energetically, pulled something out, and then she ate it. This is somebody who is obviously a 20 something, and I thought, I am not of this culture. I just, that made me incredibly uncomfortable. I am so glad they were not on the same flight as me, because I would have been uncomfortable all the ride home. That Anyway, no judgment. I'm making a comment on my own reaction. But still, oh, that makes me shudder. Anyway, what I was sharing right at the beginning was that we're going to cover three different things today. The first is I'm going to talk briefly about how to get more points. Then I'm going to talk about the final, because we do have a final for this class. And then I am going to share with you some of the peer critiques, self-critiques, and final PowerPoint presentations. So I want to, I don't know exactly how much time we'll spend on the points and stuff, but I'm really glad that both Emily and Katie are here, because you guys can ask me questions. And, if you can't think of anything, think of a question, hopefully, that somebody else in the class might have. That's what I'm hoping for. So first off, I wanted to mention in the, you guys probably didn't see this, so I'm going to share it. And for you watching at home, you'll see this again, but that's fine. Okay, you guys can see this. This is labeled the final module, and you'll notice that on what I'm seeing is three different sections, and what you see is two different sections, and that's because I have not published or released this last one yet. The final talks about a little bit about what's going on. Then there's this thing called Student SRI. And if we open that up, the Student SRI is something that you have access to for each of the classes that you take. And to get credit for doing this, after taking it, it'll show you, the computer will take you to a screen that says you completed the SRI, or it will send you an email that says you completed the SRI, or any of those things. And all you've got to do, take a screenshot of that and send it to me. And when you submit that on that SRI section in the final, the module labeled final, you will get a 2% increase in your final grade after everything else is turned in. And some people have said, well, why bother? That's not very much. That is enough to turn your grade from a B plus to an A minus. Usually that is enough to bring it up a half letter grade. And I think at the very least, it's a good thing to have. Whether or not you have 104% and you're going to get an A anyway, it's still a good thing to do, because as a department we look at those, and then I get yelled at or commended depending on how people respond. It is interesting to me that when I was doing this, going to college, I discovered that the positive SRIs came from students that were getting good grades, and the negative SRIs came from students that weren't getting good grades a lot of the time. And what's really nice is that UVU uses a system that weights your responses by, the system determines whether or not you're whining about everything or that you're actually being detached when you give the assessment. And that's really nice. Oh, we see Mitch here and Nick as well. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I was running late because of a work thing.
Well, it's terrible. It's devastating. I was really depressed when I noticed that you weren't on the call, so I'm glad you're here now. And it
Yeah,
makes
I'm
everything so much
sorry.
better. But and we'll get to this, the final assignment. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But I wanted to go over and talk about how to increase your points. All right. Now, when you turn stuff in, I have been going through and grading stuff like every day. I've been grading stuff. If you turn things in Sunday, because everything was clear by Sunday night at midnight, I got caught up. And what is nice for me and a little bit irritating is that people are turning in their stuff so that I'm kept busy. Every single day I have to catch up on grading again. And I'm actually not upset about that at all. What that tells me is you guys actually care and you're trying to get this taken care of, and that's awesome. I love that. And this week is the time to look over those comments and resubmit, and that's what a lot of people are doing, which is absolutely wonderful. That is one of the easiest ways to increase points, just to look at what was already submitted and fix it. Another super easy way to increase points is to go through all the attendance elements of the attendance module, because a lot of the times one of those doesn't mean very much, but if you haven't been watching the attendance videos, then that does take that can potentially drop you a full grade, a full letter grade. So it's really important to go through that. That's another really easy way to boost your grade. Another one is go through all of your quizzes and make sure you have perfect scores in all the quizzes. Now, if you are just missing 1 or 2 points, big deal. But there's a couple of times when you have a brain fart and you put in the wrong stuff and you get, out of 12 points, you maybe get 2, or 2 points out of 8 or something like that. And it doesn't take very much time to go through your quiz, see where you're screwed up, and then retake it. And you can either retake the entire quiz, or if it's a yes or no type of answer, you can put that in the comments. When you retake the quiz, Canvas lets me know. And even though I have it set on to inform me when you make a comment, it rarely does. I don't see that. So if you're going to fix your quiz by putting correct answers into the comments, please email me, and email me through Canvas, and then I will go and fix it right away. Okay. One thing that I've seen as well is I usually check my emails from you guys on my phone. And one thing that I'm noticing is that about half the time, I'm all caught up on my phone, and then I'll go back and check it the next day and realize that there's several people whose emails I didn't see for 2 days because they didn't show up on my phone. So I've been trying really hard to make sure I remember to check on my computer as well. If you emailed me and I didn't respond, first double check, refresh Canvas and double check, see if I fixed the thing, and then go back and look and see if I responded on Canvas. And if I did it there, then I responded through the regular email channel, or at least I'm trying to. Also, you will see if it's something and you're feeling like I'm just ignoring you, which I'm honestly not trying to do. Although Mitch emails me like 14 times a day, and it gets really tiresome. And so some of his I do have a tendency to ignore, but everybody else is pretty reasonable. If you feel that I'm ignoring you, I'm kidding, Mitch. I just made that up. You don't do that. But look on the syllabus and I give you my cell phone on the syllabus, what you can do is just text me on that with your name and the class number, 1130, and just let me know, hey, I've been emailing you and I haven't gotten any response. Because one thing also that I'm noticing is that people that email me from Canvas or who are in my Canvas courses, every once in a while, my campus email will say, hey, this is under construction. And that is really frustrating for you. For me, I never even see the email. So that's a couple ways to get a hold of me. So I said retake quizzes, resubmit stuff that where I say, hey, you need to alphabetize these citations, or you need the accessed on notation afterwards, use MLA, all that kind of stuff, those kinds of things. Also, sometimes people will send in HEIC files. That is something that your Android phone sends as a default. I do not see those because my computer cannot translate those. And when that happens, I will put in a 0 and just say, hey, resubmit with a JPEG or PDF. And 99% of you guys have turned around within minutes usually and resubmitted it as a JPEG or PDF, and then I can read it. And that's really helpful. So go through, if you see a 0 on an assignment that you know you turned in, most likely that's the reason. Every once in a while too, and I think it's happened to almost everybody at least once in this class, is you'll submit the wrong assignment and then you'll get a 0 and I'll have a note saying this is the wrong assignment, please resubmit. Or else I will have a total brain fart and grade it for a completely different assignment. I may have done that to Katie, and then I don't know if it was Katie or not, but I got a panicked email saying, well, I did everything, I followed all the directions, and that's when I realized I had graded it for the wrong assignment. Now, it was one of the one of the reflections on a set of artists, and I thought I was grading a different module, and so all the artists that she was referencing were the wrong ones for that module I thought I was grading for, even though she got it right. So I'm glad she was really calm about it, didn't scream or yank off an ear, and I was able to go back and fix it pretty quickly. So that was great. So those are some of the easiest fixes. And then something else, I told you guys this story before. When COVID hit in 2020, one of my students, he had to take care of family members. And his brain, he was fried because he was working he was working a full-time job. He was working full-time at school. And then at home, he was helping with his family, everybody had COVID. And we had shifted to mostly online. And what I noticed is that his grade was at like a D-. It was really bad. And he said, yeah, I'm just gonna have to take this again next semester. And I asked him, well, have you done the stuff? He said, yeah, I've been working on it. I said, well, then go ahead and turn in what you've done. And since this is online, I know you guys have a real live job. You guys, everybody puts their shirt on over their heads just like everybody else, and if every single time one of you have had to turn something late in, or you forgot to turn it in, and you've let me know what was going on, I've never had a problem. And so he started turning stuff in, and within 4 days, his grade went from a D- to an A- because he turned everything in. So that's something to be mindful of as well. Make sure you turn stuff in. So I think I covered all of those. Also, it's a really good idea to go through your Canvas to-do list and just make sure you haven't missed anything. I think that I'm just quiet because I'm thinking about if I've covered all that. I think I've covered everything. So the quizzes are all set to, you can retake them 300 times if you'd like to. I don't think you'd need to. Hopefully you don't. but you can either retake a quiz by retaking the whole thing, or, and I think a few of you here on the meeting have also answered the questions correctly by leaving comments, and then you emailed me to let me know. And that's really helpful. So the last thing I want to say about this is I will go through and put zeros on everything that isn't turned in. It doesn't mean you're going to get a zero. What that means is when you get a zero, it triggers Canvas to let you know so that you can remember to submit what you've missed, what you've forgotten to. Okay?
Hey, if I do take one of those quizzes 300 times, do I get a prize?
If you can manage taking it 300 times and answer differently every single time, I will tattoo a gold star right in the middle of your forehead. No charge. Is that a good enough prize?
Yours, not his?
You know, I will.
That only seems fair.
What's that?
That only seems fair.
Oh, that's a fantastic prize.
We could also do gold leafing. I mean, we could gold leaf a star on the middle of your forehead. We could do that too, or just yellow magic marker. You know, whatever you're happiest with. I think that'd be so awful. But everybody at UVU would know exactly which class you had taken. Do you guys have any questions about that? You know, getting more points and retaking and stuff like that? Okay. All right, good. Now, the screen that I see is different than what you see. I just realized I had not changed it back from stop sharing. So I'm going to show you the final assignment here. This is what the final is, okay? And the final, let's see. I'm just trying to hide a little bit of the questions. What you're going to be doing is I'm going to email 4 questions to you. And what you will be doing is responding to each of those 4 questions with a response of at least 50 words for a total of at least 200 words. And that 200 words does not count the questions or your titling when you do the paper. And that's what your final assignment is. So I will on Sunday at midnight, I will send out to everybody. Oh, let's see. Okay. I will send out to everybody that thing published. I will email everybody, and also it will be published so you'll be able to see it. Let's see. I'm going to share that page again. Hold on a sec here. So you can see right here that this has a little line through it because it hasn't been published yet. This will be published so that when you wake up Monday morning, you will have access to those 4 questions. Again, you will go through those 4 questions and you will answer each of the 4 questions with a reflection of at least 50 words. And then you'll turn that in. And again, those 50 words do not include the question itself. They're all 50 of your own words. I do have a deep and abiding testimony of ChatGPT. I think it's absolutely astounding and wonderful and amazing. But I know that people are using it inappropriately when I read in their questions. Since I am only an AI program and generate responses, I do not have an opinion of my own. If you're going to use ChatGPT to kind of help organize your thoughts, and I do have people that do that, please have the self-respect to go and rewrite it in your own words. If you turn this in and there's not a sufficient word count, or you miss one of the questions, or you use ChatGPT and you don't rewrite it in your own language, I will give an appropriate score to it and ask you in the comments to resubmit. So it is in your best interest to do this as early in the week as you can, because after Friday at midnight, you no longer have access to it. And according to department mandate, if you don't like this, you can go over and talk to Courtney. I know that how thoroughly she could ignore irritating people, so good luck with that. But according to department mandate, if you miss the final for a course, you can lose up to a full letter grade. Did you know that? So it behooves you to take the final seriously, even though it's not a test. It's not going to be a test like what you're used to in other classes, and it's not going to be a final assessment of all your work. What it is I am getting you to think about and share your experience with the class. And that's what the final is, essentially. So again, I will publish that for Monday morning, and I will email everybody to remind them about that. So make sure that you are double checking your Canvas email and your eyes are peeled for that. All right. And I believe that this will probably be the easiest final of any of the art classes that you have to take this semester. So that
For my
is
other final, I just had to pay $80, so I'm happy with this.
Oh, okay. All right. So I don't know, maybe paying $80 is easy for some people, but that represents to me an awful lot of Sonic cheeseburgers.
Yeah, and it's just mat boards and photos.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yep.
Well, and for the final for this, that's the final for the class, but I think it's also important for everybody to remember that they need to do the self and peer critiques. Those are due the day after tomorrow, so Friday. And everybody also needs to do the PowerPoints, and those are due on the 10th. Now, if you guys do need more time for anything, let me know as soon as you possibly can, and I will do whatever I can to help you so you can get everything turned in. I know that emergencies happen, emergencies creep up even during the times of finals, and we do have a certain amount of flexibility being online. So, let me know if those final projects and stuff like that, if you're having technical issues or whatever, but try to get those in as soon as you can so that whatever things are missed, or if anything is missed, or you have time to rework and resubmit it by the 15th. Because the drop dead deadline for everything is midnight or 11:59, Friday the 15th of this month. All right. Now, there was something else that just occurred to me that was really, really super important that I needed to talk about. Oh yeah. As part of the package, as being a full-time student at UVU, you are supposed to have access to a suite of tools that includes PowerPoint. And if you open your PowerPoint and you go up to that top bar, it has several things listed, and the word slideshow is like right in the middle of that top bar. If you go all the way to the right and then go in 3 spots, you will see a word that says record. And if you open that up, I don't remember exactly how to do it, but I found how to do it on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube, look up record PowerPoint presentation as movie or as video, and it will tell you exactly how to do it. But if you have access to PowerPoint, you should be able to do that through the PowerPoint program. Now I say should because not everybody does, and it doesn't always show up for everybody correctly. And I have no idea why. So I will tell you 2 other solutions that people have come up with that I think are really inventive, and they did get gold stars stapled to the middle of their foreheads. One solution was somebody set up their camera just right in front of the computer on a little bit of a tripod and set it to record, and the camera recorded their camera phone recorded them talking as they went through the slides on their computer screen. And that's brilliant. It's a relatively low-tech solution, but it covers it. And I thought, okay, well, that's great. All the problems are solved. Well, somebody else came up with another solution that I thought was awesome, which was they got on Teams, made a Teams call to themselves, did a screen share, and then recorded them sharing their PowerPoint slideshow on Teams. And it recorded as a movie and everything, and it worked perfectly. So that's 2 solutions for if your PowerPoint doesn't work, it doesn't allow you to record the narration. This does need to be narrated, and you do not have to be the person to do the narrating. If you coach somebody or give them a script and somebody else records the narration because you have social anxiety, which I understand very, very well, that counts as well. It just needs to be narrated. It doesn't have to be your voice.
And some social media platforms also work. For my critiques and whatnot, I use TikTok to do that. I just put the picture up and then did a voiceover.
Oh, that's a great idea. Does it allow you to change pictures midstream?
I don't know. I know you can put multiple pictures in there, and then I think you can. I did just 2 separate videos. So
okay, all right. Well, that's a really good solution too. And there's also Facebook Movies. Facebook does that as well. And there's a couple other things. I've also had people do this on Vimeo and on their own YouTube channel, and that works great too. I'm not very familiar with a lot of the social media platforms, but I think you can also do it on Reddit, I believe. So there's multiple ways of doing it. The most creative one would be setting up your camera on a tripod, and then filming on a flipboard that has your PowerPoint presentation slides printed out from a color printer, pasted onto the flipboard. I haven't seen anybody do that. I think that'd be really creative and awesome if somebody did. That's not a challenge necessarily. You don't have to do that. Okay, so I think we've talked about that. We talked about the final. Again, for the final, when I publish that, I'll email everybody, and you should see that when you wake up Monday morning. All right, and it will be open for you to access and answer those questions and turn them in anytime before 11:59 p.m. on Friday. So you'll have a full 5 days to do it. What I would recommend, though, is if you're in doubt at all about it, get it done the first day or two. So if there is any issues with it, you can readdress it and resubmit before the end of the week. And I'm pretty sure, oh, can you hear the demon dog in the background? Can you hear that? Okay. We have a Chihuahua. She's about 3.5 pounds. And we have an Airedale Terrier and a standard size poodle, which are both about 50, 60 pounds. And she terrifies them because this little 3.5 pound dog, if they mess with her bones, she loves beef thigh bones. So the bones themselves are twice the size as she is. But if those big dogs come near her, she will growl and bare her teeth, and they are terrified of her. So that's it. And she was just growling in the background. It's one of the most evil sounds I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, I
But
was
it
her a
is
force
really,
to be reckoned with.
yeah, and it's hilarious seeing this little 3.5 pound Chihuahua terrify dogs that are about the size of my children.
Our cat does the same thing to our dogs, except our dogs are small.
Oh, well, it's just funny that they respond to social intimidation rather than size. I think that's hilarious. But anyway, I think we covered everything about the final and grades and stuff like that. I'm going through, and like I said, every day I've been going through, and what I see is what I am regrading. So if you turn something in, say yesterday or Monday, and you haven't seen the regrading yet, let me know. And first refresh Canvas, see if that changes it, and then let me know. But all that stuff should be done pretty quickly here. And then as I see stuff go in, I'm grading it, come in, I'm grading it, and I'm trying to keep the grades current for you guys so you know where you stand. But like I said, as of Sunday night, everything that had been turned in was graded for sure. Now, I wanted to share let's see, we have a self-critique, peer critique, and then 2 presentations. Since this is something that I like having people present in the class, I wanted to share them with you. For everything else, I'm going to be, I put the peer and self-critique links to the playlist in the module. And I'll go through and double check and make sure that those are still working. And I will do the same thing for the PowerPoint presentation. So in that module, you'll have a link to it as well. And I will email those to everybody so you guys can see what everybody else is doing. And again, those are due this week. Please do the best you can if you have not done them yet to get them in before the weekend. You know, do the very best you can. And I think on that, the PowerPoint is due the 10th, and the others are due on the 8th, which is Friday. So, you know, do the best you can to get those done as quickly as possible. What I've been seeing is pretty much every single one that I've seen has looked really good. So that's really nice, because I think I told you guys about the artist review one. Somebody did a PowerPoint and it took 34 minutes for them to present it. I told you about that, didn't I? And yeah, that was sad. And thankfully nobody has done that. But do not take that as a challenge, please.
This is the couple.
Okay. I am now going to be changing screens so that you can see this. This is a self-critique, I believe. And that's what we're getting, you know, unless you guys, does anybody have any questions about what I talked about, grades and the final and all that?
I already did the student SRI, so should I just add the answers to those questions in the comments, or like?
No, the questions are just for you to reflect on. You don't answer those to me at all. You just send me a
Okay.
screenshot. Okay.
All right.
Did you already send a screenshot?
No, I just did the SRI because it came to my email saying, "Hey, you should take this," and I was like, "Okay, sure." So
Okay, look in that final module, and this, I'm glad you said something, because this is important to absolutely everybody. Look in that final module, you'll see student SRI. If you did it for this class, you just submit a screenshot of your receipt from doing it, and that's it. Don't answer the questions. That's not important. Those are just things I want you to reflect on when you take the SRI.
alrighty.
I don't want you to tell me what your answers for anything was. I did have somebody email me the receipt for their SRI. I have a couple people do that. You need to submit it. You know, whoever's doing it needs to submit it in that module labeled final, in that assignment labeled SRI. And then once you do that, I can grade it and say you turned it in or not, and then that will add 2% to your grade. Is that
All
completely?
right. Yep, that's helpful.
Okay.
Also, it doesn't show up in the to-do list, just so everybody knows.
Okay, that's interesting. I bet it doesn't show up in the to-do list because it doesn't have a points attached to it.
Yep.
So that is a really good thing. So, okay, I'm going to write down to email as soon as we get off of this. I'm going to write down for to email the SRI thing to everybody. And then and playlist. And so everybody will be able to see that. So thank you. I did not know that, Katie. All righty. Okay, is everybody ready to listen to this stuff?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go.
This is the colorful cocoon or wrapped object piece by me, Alyssa Churchill. This piece looks to be around 1 to 2 feet tall. The bottom 3/4 of the object is a wide base around 6 inches wide, and the top 1/4 of the object is a skinny tube that looks to be 1 to 2 inches wide, with a bulge about 1 inch or 2 from the top that sticks out from the skinny area. This piece is rounded with a flat bottom that it sits upon and a flat top. The piece is wrapped in many different materials in the colors of beige, black, metallic gold, silver, and copper. The shape is reminiscent of a bottle, but the unusual bulge does leave the wrapped object a mystery. This object seems to be wrapped in a base of many overlapping layers of beige tape. This is followed by a black power cord that has another layer of beige tape over parts of it. This cord has the plug sticking out from the side of the piece. Then it looks like a thin copper wire is bent around the piece and part of the plug. This is followed by uneven layers of braided beige cord. A copper chain is draped along the middle of the wide base. Lastly, golden tape with a repeated hexagonal shape similar to honeycomb is wrapped sparingly across the piece. The wrapping layers are placed randomly and angularly to create interesting lines and cross-sections between the different materials. This piece reminds me of an ancient relic waiting to be uncovered. Its beige base makes me think of old yellow paper that blocks the object from whatever is outside. The braided cord has a similar effect of securing what's underneath. The wires, chains, cord, and golden tape remind me of technology. They are all connected to the idea of electricity. The power cord, the copper wire and chain that conduct electricity, the golden tape with hexagonal cells that remind me of power cells. This piece seems to be comparing the past with the future, either by covering the past to make way for the future of technology or possibly combining the two in order to make something better. It also makes me think of the phrase, history repeats itself, and how if we do not uncover the past, the future will follow the same patterns and problems that the past has already created and solved. I think this piece is successful as it brings curiosity to the audience. It makes me want to walk around and find any hidden details or interesting cross-sections. It also makes me want to uncover what it is to find what's hiding inside. This piece makes me think and question what is happening, why it was made, and how it relates to our past, present, and future.
All right, what did you guys think about that?
It was very intricate and well thought. She really went into detail of how the lines and even to the smallest detail like to the honeycombs on the wrappings of the on the vase.
Yeah, she put in a lot of description. I thought that was really excellent. And one of the things I like too that I've noticed on several other people are doing is when she's describing the evaluate portion, or when she's discussing the evaluate portion of it, she's done research outside of the object itself. You know, she talks about ancient cultures, she talks about technology and stuff like that. And I really like that. This reminded me of a conversation I had earlier today. I was talking I was sharing with the class about Plato's world of forms, or the world of the ideal, and Derrida's deconstructionism, and how they both relate to contemporary art. There was something that started happening during the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, art used to be pretty well indicative and symbolic of the culture within which it was commissioned. Artists functioned as laborers, essentially, for the continuance of the self-expression of the culture. Their art was determined and designed by the people who had the resources in the culture, like the ruling class, the nobles, the wealthy, the religious leaders. During the Industrial Revolution, there was an unprecedented growing proportion of the population which had access to disposable income so that they could buy art themselves. And by the time of the invention of photography in 1822, artists actually realized that there was this whole volume of people who could commission work from them and buy work from them that did not force the work to be reflective of the culture that they're in. And that's when we start seeing a lot of not self-indulgent work, but work by artists who are sharing their perspective on the world. If we move forward to today, art is no longer or cannot be any longer considered just a thing, just a commodity, just an object, because the meaning of the art does not reside within the art itself. It doesn't reside in the communication from the artist. It doesn't even reside in your perspective and approach to the art. The meaning of the art is born in that conversation you have as you interact with the artist, what they've made, and you have that internal dialogue with yourself where you interact with that, think about it, think about the memories that you have of that interaction, and then contemplate those memories, and then again go through that cycle over and over again as you revisit the memories. Because you look at something more than once, it's never the same thing. When you think about it more than once, it's never the same thing, because at the very least, in the moments between those two times you've interacted with it, even in your own memory, you have changed somewhat, even if the only change has been passing through time. So, and I think that that's really kind of exciting, because as an artist, that means that your work is not going to be done when you publish it or put it out or hang it. It's good, and it's never going to be done. It's going to be allowed to continue to grow forever, especially in this world that we're moving into, when you have digital records that will last unaltered for potentially millennia. Because the reason I say that is, even though your art physically will remain the same, when people, you will never have a static audience communicating or conversing with that art. It's always going to be different people. Even if it's the same individual, they're going to be different people, because they're going to be interacting with it at different moments through their lifespan. What that means to me is, as an artist, your responsibility is to make something that is worth that kind of revisitation. And as a viewer, as an audience, your responsibility is to actively engage, like we just saw demonstrated, your abilities for skillful critique, to intelligently and actively perceive something, because then you're rewarded with developing, essentially you're developing an entire new artwork that was unplanned, because the new thing is what you have made in collaboration with the artist. And I just think that that's really pretty cool. As we move forward into the world of AI and digitization and a complete democratization of access to art making materials, I think we'll see more and more often artists who depend on that collaboration with you as a viewer, and you as a viewer being aware of taking an active role in the construction of meaning around art. What do you guys think? Is that a bunch of BS, or is that as exciting to you as it is to me?
I've never heard it put this way before, but yeah, it's exciting.
Because what that means, you are working hand in hand with people you've never met to create something completely new that the world has never experienced before. I think that's really cool. Just a thought that I had. If you think it's BS, I'm sorry. All right, now this is another one, another critique. We'll look at this. When I first started doing this, I did not point out to people that you need to pretend you've never encountered it before. And I would have people that were completely dismissive of their own work. Who is your harshest critique?
Yourself.
Yeah, all the time. It's yourself. You are the nastiest bully you encounter, excuse me, when it comes to work that you've made yourself. And so the only way I can get people to appreciate how amazing they are sometimes is by doing the best they can to ignore the fact that they're the ones who made it. And I have had students do a critique where afterwards they're just in quiet for a minute because they had not realized that they actually did put that into their artwork. So I just think that that's really interesting. So let's see how this one does.
This is a self-critique of volumetric form with line by Kelsey Hansen. It is a jellyfish form made using 2 colors of wire. The dark wire is used to make up the majority of the form, while the thinner, shiny blue-green wire is used to add details and highlights, mostly in the center of the piece. The main structure of the jellyfish has more precise and structured wire pieces, and the tentacles are formed much more loosely with flowing erratic placement. Analyzing this work, I see that the extensions at the bottom of the form activate the space and lead the viewer's eye. The effect makes the sculpture appear to be floating through water the way a real jellyfish would. The color and the metallic variations in material that are used here make this piece almost shimmer as you look side to side at it. The thinner lines created around the outside give the tentacle parts a wispiness, while the layered wire sections that are grouped together in the center, they add a sense of structure to this jellyfish form. When I go to the aquarium, jellyfish are some of my favorite underwater creatures to watch. I love to watch them float and swim through the water, and their flowing weightlessness, it's just captivating and mesmerizing, and I want to watch them for long periods of time. The contrast between the softness that we usually associate with a jellyfish's movement and the rigid metal wire used here is really interesting. There could also be an argument for the commentary on a jellyfish's sting corresponding to the sharp wire ends that you see here, down at the bottom mostly. There seems to be several layers of meaning and material to this piece. Overall, I would say that this sculpture has been successful in demonstrating volumetric form using line. It not only easily identifies as a jellyfish form, but it also portrays a sense of movement using a stationary object. I'm personally pretty proud of this piece and how it turned out, and I love to display it now.
All right, what did you guys think about that one? I thought that one was pretty good too.
I'd agree with the last one as well.
Okay.
Actually, was yeah.
I thought it was nice to, one of the things I mentioned when we first started talking about these critiques is the first part, description, doesn't allow for much of your personality to show up. And the second one, you start imagining, because a description should be something that everybody can see. Everybody can encounter it pretty much the same way. When you start analyzing it, you're guessing how the artist made it and you're thinking about its construction. That injects a little bit more of yourself into it. You're still a bit dispassionate, but you're involving yourself because you're relying on your own personal expertise and experience to extrapolate how the thing was put together. When you get to a interpretation, you're putting a lot more of yourself into it, because from here you're extrapolating based on what you observed, how you described it, and how you imagined it was put together. You're starting to extrapolate the potential meanings that it could have, and even the potential perspective of the artist who made it. And then finally, when you describe that or when you talk about the evaluation, that is almost entirely you. And the difference from the process of critiquing to just having a knee-jerk opinion about something is that if anybody asks you any questions at any point of your observations on it, you can validate what you've said, and you can do it precisely. You can talk very specifically about why you feel the way you do about that art piece, because you've gone through this critical thinking exercise. And I think that's, on the one hand, it's kind of exciting because then people know what you're thinking. And on the other hand, I think it's empowering to both the artist and the viewer, because you're demonstrating that you are taking an active role as a viewer, and you are demonstrating that you are participating in that collaborative construction of whatever the art means. And I think that's really pretty cool. I think I don't know about you guys. I've had it with people whining about AI destroying the potential for artists. You read the same kind of whining with the invention and popularization of the daguerreotype back in 1847. People were whining about that. And then you get Betamax technology, and people start whining about that. The movie making was only real with Super 8. And then with digitization and Photoshop, people are whining about, nobody's going to ever make art again because of that. And AI is just the same kind of thing. It's another tool. I guarantee that, well, it guarantees kind of useless because nobody's going to get their money back. But I would not be surprised at all within 5 years when artists are using AI hand in hand, helping them to construct stuff. People know that AI is another medium and they're comfortable with that. And there's then the people that are whining now are whining at that time are going to be whining because they're trying to hide the fact that they really doubt their own skills. That's how I see things going, because that is exactly what happened with photography and all these other innovative solutions to media presentation or media possibilities. Same kind of response to finding out that paints were in tubes. People were real artists were whining about that because now anybody can afford to paint. So, well, if you didn't have tubes, if you didn't have paint in tubes, we would not have Manet, Monet, Van Gogh, Cassatt, any of those people. All of that would be gone. And so I just think that kind of thing is silly. And so one thing that I really liked was seeing in this particular critique, the speaker was injecting more and more of themselves personally into this as they progressed through this critique, and it was kind of fun to see that. I like that. Okay, so we are going to go to the next one.
This is the Mighty Voltron piece by Kelsey Hansen. This piece's shape is very flowy with a soft arch along the top that round down into two larger stumps that hold the piece up, with two hanging rounded stalagmite-like forms hanging from the bottom in the middle. This piece is completely rounded and there are no hard edges. This piece is covered in many layers of pink fabric cuttings, ribbons, and other soft materials that completely surround the entire piece. An assortment of pink buttons are also randomly placed along the piece. The base of this piece seems to be carefully carved and smoothed to create an unrecognizable and interesting shape. The base looks to be covered in fuzzy pink yarn. Then fabric and ribbons have been cut to roughly 1-inch pieces and placed in sections one over the other, possibly by the use of hot glue. Buttons have been placed around the piece stuck on by hot glue as well. This piece reminds me a lot of the relation between motherhood and childhood. The use of pink and the hanging rounded forms remind me a lot of the udders from a milk cow. The sewing materials remind me of clothing that my own mother used to make for me on special occasions. The use of pink solidifies the idea of these typical female stereotypes of sewing for children and nurturing them, since pink is typically associated with girls. The overlapping fabric scraps brings to mind the act of constantly fixing up clothing for a child as they repeatedly ruin it while they play. This piece looks very soft and comforting. I wanted to just like touch it because it looks like it feels very soft, which being soft and comforting is the way I think a mother or any parent should be towards their child. I think this piece was super successful as it invoked a lot of emotion and thought that brings back good memories of being a child. This piece makes me feel more grateful for the kind mother I had who was always willing to fix up my clothes. It also makes me sad to think of some mothers who feel like they work so hard, repeatedly helping their child by giving them all of their love and all of their time to make their child have the best life possible, but they feel like nothing more than a milk cow, always giving everything they can without any thank yous.
All right, what do you think about that one?
The associations she brought up were pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. It's one of those things again where she described it pretty succinctly. I mean, the description was very thorough. Her contemplation on how it was put together and assembled, I thought was really, really well done. And then as she was interpreting it, it was interesting to me how she was able to articulate why it brought about those particular feelings to her. And I thought that was really well done. You know, it's a soft and gentle piece, but it also feels like a very strong feminist piece too. And she brought up some, and I loved how she was able to demonstrate that it can be both viewed as both a celebration and a lament at the same time. So I think that was another really nicely done one. Now, let's see, we have two presentations are on two artists, two PowerPoints, and I'm going to do those really quick here. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, one of them is 6 minutes, and the other one is almost 7 minutes. So we have plenty of time to do both of these. All right, so you guys ready? All right, here we go. I'm sorry, I could transition into these windows if I had a 12-year-old sitting next to me to help me. But since I'm an old man, it's going to take the time it takes.
It happens to me too. Hey, I think I did one on him too.
On Mark Langan?
Yeah, I found him like I think on another class or like one of the other like artist research I did.
Okay, good. Yeah, he's one of these guys that is a little deceptive because when you look at him, he looks completely ordinary. He does not look like one of us weirdo.
No, he does not. Yeah, no, he does not. My favorite of his work is the Queen of Hearts.
I really like a lot of the stuff that he's seen, and it's fascinating. Okay, well, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Let's watch
Sorry,
this.
that was partially my fault.
No, that's okay.
Mark Langan is a self-taught corrugated cardboard artist from Ohio, as you can see from his vanity plate license plate shown here. Mark has been working in his chosen medium for almost 20 years since discovering his love for corrugated cardboard in 2004. Before that, he says he had worked in nearly every other medium he could think of. In 2004, while tearing down boxes for trash one day, Langan noticed the wavy material between the paper layers of boxes. He was intrigued by the possibilities of this medium and asked a neighbor that was moving to save boxes for him. From there, he started to experiment. He fell in love with the work and has become known for his green art. Since then, he has been recognized for eco-friendly work. The narrative surrounding Langen's work is focused on those 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. He says he has created many pieces that allow his clients to visually showcase their branding strategy towards social standing with regard to sustainability and eco-friendliness. He also recognizes that many of those things are buzzwords today, but they've become important for so many. And whether he originally started out intending to promote recycling or not, his entire artistic identity is wrapped up in that message. Luckily for him, it's not a bad one. Mark gives this promise to those who encounter his work. I am meticulous with details and consider myself the best in my field. I am mindful of the environment and consider myself a true green artist by the reuse and repurposing of materials. I am professional and treat all clients, large or small, with respect during the entire creative process from conception to completion. So it does seem like he has embraced the message that his work has given him. It's pretty inspiring to see what Mark Langen has done to create a name for himself by simply using one kind of material to make his art. He cuts and layers the corrugated cardboard and uses a non-toxic white glue to seal everything together. His method is very low-tech. It doesn't require any computer rendering. He simply works with a few tools in his hands. To look at his work, it doesn't seem overly complicated, but it does require a high level of precision and patience. On average, for a 2.5 square foot piece, it includes approximately 2,000 individually cut pieces and takes an average of 100 to 120 hours to complete. Once he starts a project, he finds it difficult to stop until it's completed. He tells a story in an interview of once working on a piece feverishly on New Year's Eve, running over to his friend's house to kiss his wife and toast the new year at midnight, and then promptly returning home to finish his work. It seems fitting that this is the artist that was featured in class during our study of texture, because the texture of the material is what led him to work with it exclusively. It's amazing to see the variety that he's able to achieve working with this simple material as well. The majority of Langen's work is for commissions. He works with a lot of packing, shipping, recycling, and paper companies, and in many instances is able to use the company's own product for his creations, which is kind of cool. He does work with other companies and individuals as well. Often he's able to personally present his clients with the work, and he really enjoys that part of it. You can see here that sometimes the paper part of the material is also used. It's shredded up and added to the work. While most of his work is the natural brown of the cardboard, some of his artworks do showcase color as well. I'm usually drawn to more colorful art, but there's something about the simplicity and focus on texture that draws me to Langen's more natural works as opposed to the colorful ones. While most of his work is original or a logo recreation, he does like to pay homage to famous artists as well. Here we have an homage to Warhol, Campbell's Tomato Soup Can by Mark Langen, and the homage to Edward Munch, The Scream by Mark Langen. He also references other artists when talking about his dream to be known in the art world. He says, as Dali is known to surrealism, I would welcome Mark Langen being known for boxes and recycling. On another occasion, he said, as Andy Warhol was known for his Campbell's soup creations, I want to be known as that box recycling guy. He's really just trying to make a name for himself, which feels relatable to many artists. He found his little corner of the market and he's running with it. Right now, he's mostly known locally, and he promotes and is promoted locally in Ohio. As I have researched Mark Langen and his work, I've noticed some traits that are different from my own. Namely, he's a male that has been working as an artist almost as long as I've been alive. But I also realized that the more we look for differences, the more we're going to find them. Instead, I found myself recognizing many similarities between us. We both thrive on simplicity. We're both known more locally than globally. We really just want to create beautiful work. In those similarities, I've discovered an inspiration and a hope that one day I too will find my place in the art world.
All right. I think that was another excellent one.
I think so too, but I want to find out where she got her resources, like her sightings, because whenever I searched up Mark Langen, I got the singer instead of the dude I was looking for. I was like, I don't want the singer. I want the cardboard box dude.
Yeah, that is really frustrating.
Like, I got it again and again, and I could not find out where he was or how long he was been doing it. I mean, I found out he was doing it all of his life, and the 2004, and I did find a website that did reference what she said, the recycling box guy, but I could not find anything else she could find. So I did try my best, and I used what I had.
Well, I will. This will be up on the website like tonight or tomorrow. So hopefully that's not too late that you can look at her references. She has those at the end of it. But
Pro tip, go to Wikipedia and look at their sources.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like doing a lot. In this class and other classes I teach, every once in a while people will cite Wikipedia as one of their principal sources, and you cannot have that as a principal source. But the primary reason why Wikipedia is so good is because their articles do have sources that they draw from. So Katie's exactly right. Find Mark Langen cardboard guy on Wikipedia, and then scroll down to the bottom of the page and see where the resources are. There's citation sources, and that should give you a pretty good field of information to draw from.
Yeah, I never actually thought of that. But now that I do, and if I do get a low grade on it, if I do, I can now refer back to either Wikipedia or this student's sources.
Yeah, I think those are really good sources that she had.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more to share, and after we do that, I'll answer whatever questions you guys have, but then we'll be done. So let's see. Give me just a short 3 hours here as I figure this out.
Yeah, this is like my second favorite class other than my other one that I've had before.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
Bruce Nauman. He was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1941. His father was an engineer for General Electric, and that caused him to move all around the United States. He studied math and physics at the University of Wisconsin, and after graduating, he decided, it wasn't for him. He wasn't very good at math and physics, and he didn't really like it. So he threw himself into the world of art, and specifically sculpture, performance, and cinema were what he really, really focused on. He was a huge central figure in the 1970s art movement and is a pioneer in the development of post-minimal art. As you can see, his art's very, very unique. A lot of it was video, which you can't really show over PowerPoint, but it's cool. One of his greatest contributions is the investigation of the creative mind and its doubts concerning the production of art. He likes to defy the traditional notion that an artist should have one signature style, which I really, really love and appreciate, because as an artist myself, I have so many different styles, and it's so hard to narrow down on just one I want to like take my career in. Bruce was all about how a true artist helps the world by revealing mystic truths, which you'll see on the next slide here. He actually created it to be a neon sign in 1967. And kind of that's what jump-started his career. His artwork prompts a different experience, which is also really cool. As you can see, this is one of his artworks. It's called the Green Light Corridor. It's very minimalist, but it also creates a sense of a hidden, unattainable space for a viewer to be in, and is just really awesome. He was once said that when you're looking at his art, it should be like someone's hitting you in the back of the neck with a baseball bat. He was all about exploring different mediums, going with the flow, and just embracing mistakes. He said the accidents are what makes it real. And it's what kept Bruce going back to the studio. He liked the excitement of something could go wrong and that could make art better. When experiencing his art, it should be kind of a disturbing, like, what the heck is going on? Which I think he crushes on all of his artwork because it's way out there and you really have to imagine what he was thinking at the time. Material-wise, he just works with what's there. Like, he tries to find art through the cracks of things. He takes art very logically, which is interesting, and is very critical thinking, and is all about, if I make something in the studio, then it's art. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's art. He's also one of the funniest artists because he thinks the world is absurd and like really, really focuses on that in his artwork, which could be cool, could be not, but he really operates with an artist block. A lot of people will, like, when they get the artist block, they kind of just stop, they go away, they're like, okay, I'm done. But not him, which is really cool. He also, again, embraces mistakes. So that one picture that's blurry, I tried to find a clear version, but he purposely made it blurry for the motion that those people are walking back and forth, which drives me insane, but it's fine. It's fine. His art isn't considered beautiful, which is weird. But also when you look at it, his art's weird and it doesn't make a lot of sense, yet it makes perfect sense, like, at the same time. He's never, ever been able to stick to one thing at a time, and he staked his career on investigating the possibilities of what, like, art may be, which I think he highly, highly succeeded. He honestly, his materials and everything is just so iconic. A lot of his videos are just him pushing up on a wall and pushing back, and that's art. His studio is also a piece of work. It is very messy and kind of looks like a garage filled with junk and broken materials, which would drive me insane, but it works for him. He doesn't care to have things perfectly arranged or anything. It's crazy because he admitted to one winter he had mice in his studio and that he got rid of most of them. But while he was trying to do a different project, it wasn't happening. So he set up like an infrared camera and he watched the mice, and that created a piece of art for him. In this art, he just talks about how meditative it was to just like come every morning and watch what the mice were doing, which it was very interesting because you had to focus on nothing to really watch it. Otherwise, if you focused on just the mouse, you'd miss other things. If you focused on the cat, you'd miss other things. And so it was very, very interesting to watch this and then see how that was art to him, and that's what he submitted, and it's out there in the world somewhere for someone to see. He was quoted to say, I don't know how many people actually took this art seriously or still do, but I don't care, which I think is a really cool mindset to have in an artist. He creates art that he enjoys, and like that's it, which is really, really cool. He doesn't really like repetitive activity, and so a lot of times in a studio, he sits there and he just thinks of what he wants and what would be the most efficient way possible to get what he wanted. He never starts a project the same, but he always knows when it's enough and that when he needs to stop and just end it, which is really, really cool. He now lives on a ranch in New Mexico, living out his quote unquote retired life because he is now a rancher and loves horses and all that stuff now, and he loves seeing the connection between ranching and art and what art he can make from that.
All right, I like that one too. That was nice.
Yeah, she wasn't kidding about him being weird.
The only thing missing from this is the citations, but if she put those in as another file, then that, and I think she may have, then that'd be just fine. So if a lot of the times I like having the citations on the last slide of the presentation, but if you finish filming this presentation and you forgot to do that, you can include it as an additional document in the submission. But that leads me to something else. Before we talk about that a little bit, it is really important to remember that most of the time Canvas is going to overwrite when you submit something new. And I have had a number of different instances where just this last week, somebody tried to turn something in. They turned half the stuff in and forgot to submit the other stuff. When they turned that second half in, Canvas overwrote what they had just previously turned in. So I asked them to submit everything at the same time, and they did. And then they also sent it in as an attachment to the comments. What will happen is that if you resubmit something, Canvas assumes that it's to replace what you've already submitted. So that when you submit, you can submit multiple documents at the same time. If you're submitting images and there isn't room to submit all the images, collect all the images and put them into one PDF and then submit that as a single document. But that will really help. Just remembering that will really help mitigate people's frustration. So remember that, please. All right, do you guys have anything, any questions or comments about the stuff that we've seen? All right, do you have any questions about or comments about submitting and getting more points?
I have one, but I think I'm overthinking this a little bit.
Okay.
Just specifically when we submitted something, but we have a potential to get more points on it, is the score given on there? Is that the final score until we resubmit? Like, or
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The score is what is for what I see. And if you want to get more points, then look at the comments. And if it's not clear, you can email me and we can talk about it more.
Awesome. Okay.
That's a really good question. I did an assignment for somebody where it was a two-part assignment and they did not understand the first part, but they nailed the second part. And when we started talking, I realized that she did not get the first part directions at all. So we went over that quite a bit, and then she was able to resubmit everything and totally nailed the first part too. So yeah, it's really what you see is the point value for what you've turned in, and if you do anything to change that for the better, then and resubmit it, then you'll get more points, especially following the directions in the comments. All right, that was a good question. Anybody else? All right, any questions about the final? Okay, good. I'm really hoping that everybody gets a chance to watch this video before the weekend. I think that would be really smart to do. I don't know. It's kind of funny to say that because the people that are hearing it now don't need it because you've already seen the video. And the people that aren't going to see it before the weekend aren't going to hear me say it's a good idea to watch it before the weekend. So that was kind of, in the context of the medium that we're using, that was kind of a useless thing to say, but still I felt like saying it.
Oh, are we meeting next week at all, or is this it?
This will be the last time that we meet. If several people email me and say, hey, can we go over the final questions together, I may schedule another meeting for next week, but I would rather not. I'd rather you guys concentrate on the finals that you're working hard at in present, in person, and get this done, get those 4 questions answered as soon as you can in the first part of the week. And if anybody does want to, or if a lot of people email me with a desire to have another meeting, then we can do that too. But I'd rather you guys spend your time on your in-person finals next week, and then fill out your final for me as you can in between the cracks. All righty. Okay, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Oh no, I blocked off the camera. Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for meeting with me today, and good luck to absolutely everybody as you finish up your semester. And it's been great getting to know you guys and visiting with you so much. And I'm really impressed with the art that you guys have been doing and the quality of the work that you've been showing me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, that's been awesome. Thank you.
All right.
I will see